Welcome to Redesigning Health and Home. I'm Meg.
And I'm Carrie. We have a passion for creating beautiful, functional spaces and living healthy, vibrant lives. So join us as we chat about simple, practical ways to take care of your body, mind, and home. Whether it's fitness tips, home decor ideas, recipes, or navigating life's big moments, we're here to share what works and what doesn't with a whole lot of encouragement along the way.
Let's redesign life together, one step, one room, and one habit at a time.
Welcome back to episode 5 of Redesigning Health and Home. Today, Meg and I are diving into a topic that many of us can relate to. Our topic today is stress and anxiety. We're sharing what triggers it for us, how it shows up in our lives, and most importantly, the strategies that we use to move through it and bring more peace and joy into our days. We promise this is going to be an interesting conversation, so grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's chat. How are you doing, Meg?
I am great, Carrie. I have a kind of a funny story. There's this cute bakery by us that they do really great challenges for themselves. You know, one weekend they'll do tea flights and one weekend they'll do hot chocolate flights. And they don't do donuts, but this weekend, all over their social was pre-order your donuts, one weekend only. So I did. And my husband and I went to church. And then I said, oh, we need to stop by this bakery because I had a time to pick them up. And, you know, the long line for these crazy, delicious donuts. And he said, well, let's just get a seat in the bakery just to try them, you know, and I did take pictures and stuff. And well, we overindulged a little too much because they really were gourmet, delicious. So I am trying to reel back in, but hey, everything in moderation. So it was definitely a nice little sweet treat to have to start the week. How about you? What's going on by you?
That sounds kind of amazing, actually. Well, we have fabulous weather here. I always talk in Celsius. It's 18 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. That's the Canadian in me kicking in. I don't know, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. It's lovely and it's sunny and beautiful. So yeah, hanging out outside. Yesterday, my husband and I spent like a couple hours outside trimming the bushes and trees around. And I don't know why I never thought of that before. So I don't handle the heat very well. My Scottish skin does not care for the heat and my red hair. So I burn easily. I get overheated quickly. So doing like all that heavy stuff in March is perfect for me. I was like, I'm going to do this every year.
That's so great. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
And it just felt great to be, you know, outside for that long. So yeah, it was very nice. But anyway, I know that our topic today is stress and anxiety, and that can be brought on by many different things for different people. So my first question for you, Meg, is what do you notice brings stress and anxiety on for you?
For sure. Like you said, stress can be many things to many people. And I know I am a routine girl. That's why I love this paper planner. We've talked about it before, because if I hold things in my head and they sort of pop up and they're not written down, I'll just have this wave of emotion that doesn't always feel so great, that I'm really unorganized, or I can't find a document, or where did I put that? And that definitely happens a lot. I'm not saying that just because of this paper planner, it doesn't. So definitely when I'm not as organized as I'd like to be, which is probably more so than not, that will bring on those feelings of stress or anxiety, or even adding on top of that, these probably go together, tight deadlines or an overwhelming to-do list. You know, when you have life events where we've talked about, that always can bring in some extra things to add on to your day. So even if the day is full, it's hard to see that little light at the end. When am I going to get to bed? Because I still haven't done this, or this. So that just getting off of routine can bring those feelings of stress or anxiety. So that's kind of right now just a little bit that I wanted to tiptoe into about what kind of brings on stress and anxiety. And I know that one motto of a weekend well spent means for a week of content. And I think for me, that rings definitely true. So yeah, how about you? What do you feel can bring on some anxiety or stress?
Right. So I think both of us can relate to this, but being away from our family. So our daughters live fairly close to us, about an hour away, but the rest of my family lives in Canada. So it's, a bit of a distance away. And I have a sister who lives in Indiana. So we're a little bit kind of all spread out. And so, when you're feeling kind of stressed or anxious and you want to be close to your family, but physically they're just far away, that can kind of add to the sadness or the anxiety for sure. Another thing, news and world events can definitely be a trigger for anxiety these days. And then for myself, last fall, I was noticing a real physical response that didn't seem to be attached to anything in particular. Usually I was by myself. Sometimes I was with my family when it would happen. But I would just have this real welling up of emotion that was very uncomfortable, kind of made me feel a little nauseous, to be honest. And it could feel like anger, which I'm not an angry person. And so that was odd for me. Or frustration or even sadness. It was hard to even pinpoint exactly what the emotion was, but it was just kind of coming out of nowhere, and it could happen many times in the same day. And it was starting to affect how I was able to manage my life, to be honest. So with the encouragement of my family, I did go and see my doctor, and she encouraged me to start an anxiety medication, which I decided to do. Took a lot of thought to decide to do that. I'm not a person to jump on medications, actually. They make me kind of nervous, but I decided it was worth to give it a try. And for me, what I've noticed about the medication is it just seems to kind of slow things down and give me time to respond to what's happening to me. I don't have that welling up sensation anymore, which is I'm very thankful for because it was very uncomfortable. And so that's my experience with medication. I don't know if it was a hormonal thing, being in menopause, or some kind of chemical imbalance. I have no idea what actually caused that feeling, but I am grateful right now, at least, for having this medication, and hopefully I won't have to be on it forever. But for right now, it's been very helpful. So that's my experience. But yeah, I know we were going to also talk a little bit about when anxiety and stress tend to strike us. So what do you notice for yourself?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for sharing. I mean, yes, we've all been through, triggers of stress or anxiety. So it's good that you're proactive and took the steps you needed to get the help you needed. We've all been there. So thanks for sharing that little piece of information.
And, I certainly wouldn't want anyone else to feel bad about the decisions that they made for themselves. You know what I mean? So I think we just all have to do what works best for us. So yes. So thank you.
For sure. Well, you asked when I feel those lack of organization stressors. Well, sometimes seriously in the middle of the night, I will wake up and I've heard all this great advice and I probably should take it, but to have that notebook or planner right next to your bed. So I'll wake up with this whole list and I'll hold it and not be able to sleep. Yeah. If I would just maybe write it down, I could take a deep breath and go back to bed. So sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll wake up with those racing thoughts and just should probably take a little bit of control over that. Now, as probably everyone knows, I love my coffee. So one of my own personal goals was just 2 cups of coffee in the morning, just to not because of any particular reason, but mostly to decrease my caffeine intake throughout the day. So because I think that sometimes if I do feel maybe I'm overcaffeinated, that I will feel those physical, emotional responses from stress, just excessive. And then, of course, if maybe I didn't move that day in a really heart pumping way, that always brings me better sleep and maybe a little more relaxed mind for the day. Just get a good workout, drink plenty of water. But we'll discuss ways that we can do the reverse, find the calm and the joy. But those are some that I feel will bring that little bit of stress or anxiety feelings on for me. How about for you?
Yeah, so I definitely have the middle of the night thing. It seems like 3 a.m. is the lucky number for it to for the thoughts to pop in my head. So, and sometimes I can get back to sleep and some other times it's not so easy, but I definitely have that. And the lack of physical activity, I can relate to you there. If I don't go out for my walks, I can tell. Like automatically I can tell. It's not just that it strikes me more. It's just that for me is such a reliever, a reliever of the stress, which we're going to talk more about in a little bit. And then I am very much a people person, and I live in the cornfields and I work from home. And so loneliness is a big one for me. I do have to push myself to go out and be amongst the people right now. So, and then as I mentioned, last fall, it was just random. It wasn't even particularly related to anything. But yeah, that's kind of when it hits me. So I think some of mine are very similar to yours.
And also, I don't know, this is interesting you said about the loneliness, because sometimes when I am getting together socially, I feel I do have social anxiety. Like maybe I am more of an introvert, even though my family says absolutely not. But if I'm getting together with a group, going through the questions in my head, or I'm just always second guessing, am I going to say the wrong thing? Or so I have some strategies to combat that, which is very helpful. But, a lot of people deal with that kind of anxiety too, social anxiety, or the reverse, being too removed from people. So it's nice to discuss that not every way of stress or anxiety shows up the same for everybody.
Yeah. That's very true. Very true. And so physically, what does your stress feel like to you? What's the physical or emotional symptoms that you kind of get?
I mean, the body is amazing. How can your heart just start racing, or your mind? What is it doing to regulate? I'm not a scientist, so I don't know all those answers, but I will physically, get pink in the face or feel my heart rate increase. And that's when our little next topic will come in. Well, how can we combat that?
Right.
Yeah. And I'll even sometimes create a scenario that is not happening, but in my mind, it's getting close to actually, I don't know if that is a way that your mind is protecting you. I'm not really sure, but then I go back, just like the week of content scenario. I think, okay, I've gotten through 1,000% of my worries. I'm here, do your grounding exercises, which we'll talk about. But yeah, sometimes it's just the racing thoughts or heart palpitations or a scenario that's not actually real.
Yeah, but that's interesting, because I think that all of those symptoms, and I'm going to talk about mine in a minute too, but they're signaling to us that something's wrong, right? Whether it's real or imagined, right? So it's very useful for our body to have those physiological responses until it's not, right? And so a worst case scenario, the what ifs, right? Catastrophizing. When it goes too far, then it becomes a not so helpful response, versus I'm going to try to prevent as many problems as possible by thinking ahead, right? Like I think both of you and I are very much, we want to think ahead and kind of imagine what problems might happen and then how do we avoid those? Like for me, at least, I'm very much how are we going to avoid as many problems as possible, which is a helpful thing. And depending, kind of what field you work in, it's a very helpful thing. But when it goes too far to the worst case scenario sort of things, now it's not as helpful. And it starts to get into the very uncomfortable sorts of feelings. So I definitely can relate with you there. And then some of the other physical responses I have, I talked about the emotional stuff, feel like I'm on the edge of tears. I can actually get headaches from it, especially sometimes in the morning. I wake up with a headache, can't sleep the best. Which then I get really tired. So it's like, double-edged sword there. But another thing that I do all the time, and my husband's like, why are you sighing all the time? Because I think I go around all the time. And I say it's my sigh therapy. I can't help it. I don't know if I'm just trying to take a deep breath or what, but for me, I sigh a lot apparently when I'm stressed. So that's something that my husband notices. And then the one that really bothers me, because it's not typically how I kind of work in my life, but if it's really bad, I'll start to avoid tasks. And that's not good. Yeah. That's when I know things are getting bad. So we talk about the paper planner. So for me, when I get to task avoidance, I'm like, okay, girlfriend, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps here and dive into that planner. What do we have for goals? What do we have for tasks? Let's get some check marks on that list, to try to bring myself back to kind of a little bit more normal. So that's some of the feelings that I have for sure. And I'm sure there's lots more that our audience could share as well, which we would love to hear from you, what it looks like for you. But I think right now, Meg, we wanted to talk a little bit about some of our strategies to bring some calm or some peace or some joy into our life when those feelings are happening. So what sorts of practices do you have?
For sure. And I think we kind of tiptoed or touched base on a lot of these just as we described the few other topics. But for me, mostly, I want to say exercise and physical movement. It just feels so good. Just this weekend, I got a really good sweaty workout. And of course, I slept so much better. I felt, I am tired at the end of the day, but a different tired at the end of the day.
Tired, yeah. The kind of tired where you feel like you earned it, not just because you're worn out. You know what I mean?
You earned it. Yeah. And your body just needs that rest. So definitely exercise and physical movement. It does wonders for the body, whatever that physiological response is. But definitely exercise helps me for sure to find the calm and clear the mind a little bit because when you're in a deep, hard workout, you really don't have the bandwidth to think about the stress. You're just into it. So even if it's just for that hour, you are removing yourself from that time that you're stressed out and then the routines, like I said, lack of routine, but being in a routine definitely helps to keep myself grounded, stay focused on the tasks at hand. Like you were talking about the task avoidance, just checking those things off, gives you such a feeling of satisfaction, nutrition and hydration for sure. Sometimes those headaches, I'll think, gosh, when was the last time I had a glass of water? Or, did I have that mixture of fruits and veggies and protein and carbs, or has it just been kind of that sugar fest like I had
donut day
yesterday at the donut shop, which is fine, everything in moderation. Yeah. And then, my sleep, I think we mentioned it probably a couple times, but the sleep app that I enjoy, it's called Better Sleep. Just put on a meditation or a hypnosis or a guided story. Just you focus on that. Try to start your evening out without that mind racing is beautiful. And then staying organized is a huge one for me. I wish I did more. I mean, people, if they're listening to this that know me, just might kind of giggle, but I do try. I
feel like you're very organized. You don't think you are? I feel like you're very organized.
Well, it's funny. I mean, that tax season I've talked to you about, just if a document is missing, that will throw me into spinning out of control. Just where is it? Now how many phone calls am I going to have to make to track this down? If I just had maybe those nice, neat files, maybe that wouldn't cause me so much. And my last one, just to kind of bring calm, my family got me this really cute book. And I have it here. It's called Anxiety Happens, 52 Ways to Find Peace of Mind. And forgive me if I'm getting the authors' names wrong, John Forsyth and George Eifert. And it is a little blurb about what could be happening. And that just a page or two of how to look at it through a different lens, widen your lens. One is really a powerful, and forgive me, I don't have the book open to that page, but it said, sometimes we're not the nicest friend to ourselves.
Yeah.
And they said, if that friend was to knock on your door, how would you greet them? Would you just say, "You're so wrong. What are you talking about?" Or would you welcome them in and say, "Oh, I see what you're saying"? And it's way more eloquently spoken than that. But I did think, I probably would be a lot nicer to that person on my doorstep than sometimes I am with me. So that book has been really helpful for me. And I know you are going to talk about some of the, different venues or books or things that you have helped you. So how about you? What strategies bring you joy?
Yeah. So actually I'll speak to that one first. So I was actually referred to this YouTube channel. It's called Therapy in a Nutshell. And the woman who runs it, first of all, she's very generous with how much free content she offers. And she says, instead of let's get feeling better, let's get better at feeling. So it's just a tiny little change of words. But her point is, we are all going to have all the feelings, right? And they're going to come and go. And sometimes we don't know when to expect them to happen. And so it might just be a matter of recognizing, yep, here comes the loneliness. I see you coming. I see that you're here, and kind of let it pass. And what could I do about it? Instead of just letting it overtake you and causing you, to spiral down into more stress, just see, yeah, I see, here comes my anxiety. Hello, anxiety. I see you. You're here. Take some deep breaths, and then go into your coping mechanisms. And so she's got so many episodes, and you can find her on YouTube. So that's been very helpful to me. And then I know lots of people like to journal. I go in fits and spurts about that. But whether it's journaling or positive self-talk, or even taking a moment to think about or write about what you're grateful for, the gratitude that you have for life, I find that tends to turn my attitude around. As soon as you go from, stressed about this and about that, to what am I grateful for, instantly turns my mood around. So that's a very big one for me. Sun exposure. So I talked about how I'm a Scottish skin gal that doesn't do well out in the sun, but I definitely need it. And so I have the little window in my bathroom, the little octagonal shaped window, and it's got one of those window films over it so that people can't see in and we can't totally see out. But the sun comes through there. So I stand in front of there for a minute, just soaking it in, and then turn around and soak it in on my back. And it just feels nice. So yeah, that's my sun therapy. I love a pampering moment, whether it's going for a massage or bringing it to my home with a new scented candle. I just picked one up actually over at Home Goods.
Great.
Yeah. Something, a skincare or a new soap or something like that. It doesn't have to be expensive, but sometimes just a little something to make you feel a little bit pampered. I know that sounds maybe kind of silly, but just a little change, and sometimes is all you need. And then you were talking about being organized and that sort of thing. And that's how I feel about my home, is if my home isn't organized, it feels chaotic in my life. And so taking the time to reset and freshen up spaces is just something that I find really helps to bring me some calm and some joy back. So that's a big one for me as well. And just listening to what my body needs on a particular day. Do I need more sleep today? Do I need to go for that long walk in the woods and hug a tree? I love to hug a tree. I don't know why, but it, feels very grounding to me. Just really listening to your body and thinking about what it actually needs. I think that's really important. And then, of course, if you are not finding anything that's helpful to you, seeking some medical help or professional help if you really feel like you need it. There is no shame in that. That's the biggest gift you can give yourself, is some help. If you can't seem to find it for yourself, go talk to a professional who that's literally what their life's work is, and they will help to guide you in some ways. So I think those are the major ones that I can think of right now. How about limiting time on my phone? I do better when I don't doom scroll, as they call it.
The scrolling.
And the scrolling, yeah. Setting some boundaries with that is definitely helpful for me.
Well, that is super. And I know our lives are full of love and joy, and we're so very blessed. And, I know we're just tiptoeing into this, but like you said, if someone has a deeper sense of a need, that, yeah, like you said, seek your professional help. And
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
There are some people who are going through some very, very hard and difficult things, much harder than the things that we've mentioned here.
Oh, absolutely. Carrie, you are so very right. And I just want to kind of slide this thought in, because I've had it, many times in my own life where I've thought, when I am having stress or anxious feelings, I've thought, well, what do I have to be stressed out about? And then I've discussed that idea with family or friends, and I've been reassured it is okay. You are human. Everyone goes through all of the emotions. Just because, you may have a lot of things going right doesn't mean you're not going to have these emotions. I mean, I've felt, what do I have to be stressed out about? I have food on the table, I have a warm bed to sleep in, and I still get these feelings. And I think it's normal. I think even we could apply that to there could be a prince who owns an island and has everything done for them and everything, set for their daily life. But I'm sure there is some sort of stress or anxious feelings, and they are allowed to have them. There's no right or wrong way to live your life. And we all have the emotions because they're human nature. So wherever you are in your life, don't ever feel guilty or bad for having natural feelings. We all do. I know I do. So I just wanted to kind of share that little idea. And there's just good, healthy, positive ways and strategies that we can use to calm ourselves, as we've expressed in this episode.
We're here for you. We're cheering for you behind the scenes. If you'd like to leave us a comment about, how you bring some calm and joy into your life, we would still love to hear from you about that. And I appreciate the time with you, Meg, just to talk about this particular topic. It's a little bit of a hard one, but I think it's just so important too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carrie. This was very eye-opening, and I think I'm going to take some of your steps about self-love and self-care and maybe even start that journaling, because I've heard great things about that too, or, the adult coloring books or anything that can kind of divert the energy away from some not so pleasant thoughts. But thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you too, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in today. Bye-bye.